So there's a lot of reports that are brought out every year. Verizon is just one of them, but many companies put them out. I like this one. There's a lot of interesting information within this report. This is a fairly recent report as well, and the line on top perfectly defines what a pivoted attack looks like. One of your machines or a number of your machines on the inside of the network is compromised, and that machine is used to attack other machines in the network. The reason why I throw this quote up there is I think a lot of security professionals don't really think about insider attack. The machine is on this side of the firewall, we trust it, and I'm not saying that we completely ignore it, but it's probably not on the top of our list when we think about threat vectors, and maybe that's something that we should consider changing. So the rest of these data are also from the same report from Verizon, and some of these are eye-opening, to me anyways. 79% of the targets were victims of opportunity. This is like a gang of thieves walking down the street and trying to car doors, and they're going to break into the ones that are open just because it was open. The next stat there is the one that's probably the most eye-opening to me. 96% were not considered difficult. So if we look at these first two stats, if we just try to lock down our systems, and if we just make it just a little bit harder, maybe we can knock down both those numbers. It seems to me that we can. The third one is also a little eye-opening, and in fact that one might be a little embarrassing, because most of the people that were breached weren't even aware of it until somebody else told them. And of those, a vast majority were exposed for weeks and weeks. So altogether, it's a little scary and actually kind of easy to fix, or maybe not easy to fix, but it's fixable. And as you might guess, we'd use CSP to do it. So what is CSP? I've been referring to that, and I apologize. It's Critical Systems Protection, Symantec Critical Systems Protection. It's policy-based. It's not signature-based, so we're not waiting for a threat signature to be identified and then waiting for a download from a live update server or something like that. This is policy-based that's written by you, or in this case, written by Symantec. They've got a number of policies, what they call out of the box. They're already written, and you can use those as they are out of the box or tweak them a little bit to fit your environment. But once they are written and deployed, they're done. You're not waiting for anyone else to provide those signatures. So how it does that, it controls the applications and processes that are on the system, and it defines what is and what is not acceptable behavior. So I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Well, how does it work? Well, I just told you. It controls and monitors behavior. There are two basic policies that are involved, and that's prevention policy and detection policy. It's host-based, so it's HIPs and HIDs. In addition to that, there is very broad support for different OSs. There's Windows, a number of Unix, Linux, Red Hat, CentOS. Those are all supported platforms. So how does it work? What does it look like? If we look at this, the intrusion prevention part of it is kind of split up into three areas, and we'll just go around this chart in a clockwise fashion, starting with the upper left. The network protection, the top bullet point there, close back doors. Again, getting back to the kind of malicious insider. If you have a disgruntled employee who maybe knows his days are numbered, is about to be fired for whatever reason, and creates a back door, a user with elevated privileges, for example, that no one thought of. Or how about a contractor that was brought in, was given temporary administrator privileges, and did the same thing, created a user that no one would think to look or look for, excuse me. And then once the contractor left, his admin privileges were revoked, but oh, there's this user that no one ever thought to look at. Moving over to the upper right, we've got exploit prevention, and here again we're talking about how the operating system and application behavior is restricted. What this does is, additionally, it reduces the need for immediate patching. I'm not saying that you don't have to patch your machines anymore. I'm not saying that at all. You do, and you should. But you don't have to do it immediately. There's not this feeling of, oh my goodness, there's an identified vulnerability. We have to plug this hole. So it kind of eliminates the 0-day or O-day attacks. Down into the lower right side, the IDS is used for auditing, and if you have regulatory compliance, PCS, HIPAA, if you're working under those constraints, you know there's a lot of reporting requirements, and the IDS covers a lot of that. Not only will it watch for files, and this will be included in the demo that's coming up, we'll do a little file watch, but it also monitors the log files that are created by the OS or by applications, and you can configure CSP to look for certain events within the log files, and then if an event happens, that will trigger either an email or whatever, or maybe nothing at all. Maybe you just want to grab all those events, combine them into one log so that you have this information that you need for compliance. And then finally, on the lower left side, the system controls, again, a part of the prevention policies. Top bullet point there, lockdown configuration and settings. Again, going back to the insider, the disgruntled employee or the nasty contractor who was in. If they change configuration files that will allow them access from the outside, well, that's a bad thing. And CSP can prevent that. You can lock down the files and make it absolutely read-only. Until you have some time that you need to change them, you will. Jump down a few bullet points there. That has all to do with the de-escalation of user privileges. We'll demo that in a moment as well. Basically what it does, CSP really doesn't care what your level of privileges are, whether you're a system admin or domain admin, network admin, whatever. If a file or a setting is set to not be changed, then CSP will not allow it to be changed. Doesn't matter if you're administrator or not. That's the de-escalation of privileges. We'll show that in just a few minutes here. So what we saw earlier in the slide from the Verizon report is that 94% of the breaches occurred on servers. Well, that's no surprise there, because that's where we keep all the good stuff, right? Whether it's an email server or file server, database server, whatever. This is where the information is kept, and this is what the folks are after. So what can we do about it? Well, we can put CSP on the servers. You know, a lot of these things we've already talked about. These are the features, and there's many more than this. I'm limited to 30 minutes with Q&A if we can. So here we go again, policy-based. Again, not signature-based. We're not waiting for a download. Insider abuse prevention, we talked about that a couple times. There's a lot we can do to lock down servers to make sure that no one can change these critical systems. Exploit and malware prevention. I can't say enough about that. You want to protect from the O-day attack or the 0-day attack. What this also allows you to do while we're talking about patching is, how about legacy servers or legacy OSs like Windows NT, Windows 2000? These are no longer supported by Microsoft, so there's no longer patches being supplied. Does that mean the vulnerabilities go away? Well, certainly not. Not at all. And there may be a very good business reason why you have legacy servers on your network that cannot be segregated and cannot be taken offline, and you're kind of exposed there. Well, CSP can help lock down those servers and make sure that you are protected. De-escalation of privilege, we're going to look at that in just a few minutes. The host-based intrusion detection will be used for compliance enforcement for regulatory purposes. I'll also show you how you can monitor how, and that not only if a file has been modified, but you can also show who has been modifying it and how it was modified. And of course the broad support on the OSs. So this is what the interface looks like when you first fire it up. Across the top you'll see three tabs: master view, prevention view, and detection view. And then down the left hand side, each one of these tabs are going to be very similar to what you'll see on the other tabs, on the prevention view, detection view, and master view. I'm going to leave it on master view right now because that'll show us all the prevention view and detection view events together. Just a word of warning, we're looking at the latest release of CSP, that's 5.2.8, but 2.9 is right around the corner, and I'm told that the interface is going to look different than what we see today. So if this is deployed sometime in the future in your environment, you're probably not looking at exactly what you're going to get. 2.8 should be out before the end of the year. But enough about that. Let's move right on. So this is the home page, and here you can see statistics about the agents that have generated recent events. Across the top here, everything that's in red has been a prevention policy. Everything that's green has been a management policy, and everything that's blue is a detection policy. This shows, hold on, let me just expand this. This shows the last 500 events, and that's an awful lot, or maybe not, it depends. We can also see network activity from the agents. We can view statistics about the number of agents. I'm in the lower left-hand corner down here now. The number of agents, this is a virtual environment, so I don't have that many agents deployed. This is just for demo purposes. In the middle, there's the ThreatCon rating. This comes from Symantec, and this is intended to give you a general feel of the security posture from a global perspective. And then there's also some news releases down below it. Here's talking about the latest patch release for Java. And on the lower right-hand side, it's called quick links. They're actually little common tasks or other functions that you can perform from other pages in the management console, but when they're on the home page, these are some of the more frequently used ones, and they're just conveniently placed here. Next page down is the assets page. The assets page lists all the agents that are registered to this particular management server, and if you look in the middle of the screen, there's only two, and one of them is this machine, the SCSP, excuse me, and the other one's the domain controller. Again, this is a virtual environment, and it's small and it's trivial. You can also see a number of other things. For example, the health of the individual agents. The green button or the green dot means it's online. If it were offline, that would be red. The next column over, you see two icons. The one for the DC shows a shield. That means there's a protection policy enabled on that particular agent, and the one beneath it shows an X through it, which means a protection policy is not enabled. That doesn't mean there isn't a protection policy in place. There is. It's just for this machine, it's just not enabled right now. And there's some other information there as well. Again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on each one of these tabs. Next one down is the policies tab, and this is where the real meat and potatoes of this is. On the left-hand side there, we see panes for prevention policies and detection policies, and then underneath that, filters. We can filter the policies based on what the OS is. Getting back up to the individual policy panes, the top one is prevention policies, and you can divide up your workspace, you can create additional places, placeholders for customized policies, whatever best fits your organization. What I have highlighted right here is a demo environment, and I've got one policy, one protection policy in place. It's the Windows core prevention policy, but I've done a little editing to it. We'll look at that in just a minute. I'm going to jump down to the detection policy also in the demo environment, and you'll see that there's one here too. But this is not to say that there isn't anything available. If I click on Symantec on either one of these are the policies that come from Symantec, what Symantec calls out-of-the-box policies. You can see there's quite a bit of protection policies already in place, some of them targeted for Windows, some of them targeted for Unix. I'll go down to the detection policies, and there's quite a few of them in place there. These can all be used as is. They can be edited to fit your specific environment. They can be used as a base for writing their own. And if you're really feeling like you gotta really want to get into it, you can even write your own policies from scratch. That's really getting deep into the weeds. You might as well use something that someone's already started and work from there. The next tab down is the configs. This is just the configurations that are applied to the individual agents. A lot of this has to do with communications between the agents and the management server, what detection file parameters are being used, whether they're event logs or file logs. We can do a lot of things here: add configurations, delete configurations, change configurations. It's one of these configurations is basically set it and forget it. Next tab down is the monitors page. In here, again on the top, monitor types. We can monitor all different types of events, and we can narrow it down to either prevention or detection or whatever we want. And the filters, we can filter out for a lot of events, last 500, and you want to see the last year, do you want to just see yesterday, whatever. This page and the next one, the reports page, are very similar to one another, but the key difference between the two is that the statistics on this page, the monitor page, it refreshes fairly quickly. This is the page where you want to be using this on a daily basis. The reports page, the next tab down, these are reports that are used less frequently, but they may contain more detail. Depends how you configure them. So we'll just go to the reports page. Here is where you would set up your reports. Some of them are built in from Symantec. If we go to the queries, for example, I'll just pick one at random, Agent OS version, and you get a nice pie chart right there. These are the different OSs, and of course, again, there's only 2 machines in our small environment here. This would be a much more detailed chart if we just had more machines, but this is where you would create this type of report. Next tab down is the alerts tab. This is where you would set up alerts that would be sent out for email whenever a particular event matches an alert that you set up. So here you can create events, edit events, you can turn them on, turn them off, you can configure other settings, whatever you want to do. The last page, or excuse me, the last tab here is the admin tab. This is exactly what you think it would be. You can set up different users. There's one user that comes in, obviously built in. It's called SymAdmin. You can create additional users. You can edit users, delete users. The same thing for roles. There's some role-based things that you can do. System settings, again, we're getting very deep into it. A lot of these things are going to be set it and forget it. So let's get back to the policies page. That pretty much is a quick run through all of the individual tabs on the web, or excuse me, on the interface. I want to get to the demo as quick as we can. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to jump over the detection view. I'm in the assets page. The first thing that we want to look at is we're going to set up a detection policy, And I've already done this, and I just want to show you what it is. I'm going to right click and edit the policy. This is what the policy page looks like. And this is a file watch policy. Remember I said earlier that we can also set this up to monitor log files from either the operating system or from individual application to look for events. In this case, we're just looking to watch and see if something has changed. So this is a file watch rule, and if you notice down here, what I'm going to be checking for is a file creation, a file deletion, or a file modification. And wherever you see this little keyhole, that means that the tree can be expanded a little bit. So when I do, how we're checking for file modification, one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be running a checksum on it, and that's how we'll know if the file has been changed. We can also, if we so desire, we can monitor access to the file. If anyone just simply looks at the file but doesn't actually do anything to it, we can do that as well. So down a couple of the files to watch, I've already populated this with just a very simple path, called it sample files, and I put the star on the end of it. We're looking for anything. So this protection policy, or excuse me, this detection policy has already been applied to the domain controller. So let's slide over the domain controller in our virtual environment, browse over to that directory. Here it is, sample files. The folder is empty right now. So I'm just going to very quickly, I'm going to create a new bitmap image. Oh, that's not what I want to do. I want to do a new text document. We want this to be text doc. Let's take a look at that. Because even though we've got the document made, you know, there's nothing in it. So we'll add this. Okay, new text. We're going to save it, then we're going to close the file. So, oh man, I've made a mistake. I really didn't want a bitmap image. I'm just going to delete this. Yep, I don't want them. That's not what I wanted. You know what? I also don't want anyone to see that I've been working here either. I'm going to delete this. I'm not going to send it to the recycle bin. I'm going to hold the shift key down, right click, and I'm going to delete. Yep, I'm going to throw them right away. Folder's empty again, right? So let's go back to CSP. We're going to go to the monitors, and I'm going to go to the management, the detection page, and we're going to, while this is populating, these are all the events that were recorded in CSP starting today. If you look at the very bottom, they go from newest to oldest, but this is the first item that was started. Well, we created the bitmap image. If we look at the details of this, it tells us everything that we want to know, including who it is that created the file, tells us the name of the file, it tells us what happened. It was a new file. Let me scroll down a little bit. There's a new file. There was a new hash that was generated, and it was done in Explorer. So that's all very interesting news. Oh, here's the operation. It was created, brand new file. Next one up, we're going to say see the same thing with our rich text document that we created. Again, it was created. Here's the name of the document. The owner or the username is up here. We're logged in as administrator from on the other machine. Here's the hash file, and it was through Windows Explorer that file was created. The next option, or the next entry in our log file, is a rename. Well, we renamed the document. It was the old name, and here's the new name, if you remember when we did that. And again, which process did that? It was the Windows Explorer. The next entry is the editing that we did to the text file. No, I'm sorry, that's not correct. There's two entries for the text document. This is the one that we're looking at. This is the modified This is the entry that shows when we modify the file. That's done here. It shows us the information that was added. We added the text, new text, and then we saved it out. And then it shows on the bottom what is the process that did it. In this case, it was WordPad. So it shows us the process we used for editing. The next entry is a rename. When we deleted the bitmap image, well, that wasn't, it gives you a little insight on how Windows handles things. That file wasn't actually deleted. It was moved to the recycle bin, and we'll see down here the old file name was bitmapimage.bmp. The new file name is what it was named in the recycle bin. It's not really deleted, just got tossed in the recycle bin. We look at the last entry, and here we'll see an actual deleted file. This is where we took our text file, and it was actually deleted when we did the shift and then delete. So you can imagine how this could be used in a number of different ways: protecting configuration files, protecting log files, or for a web server, whatever. There's a lot that can be done in this. So we're quickly running out of time. Let's slip over to the prevention, up into the policies, and here is our prevention, our demo for the prevention. I'm going to open up this policy real quick, and I want to show you what we're doing here. This is an out-of-the-box protection policy that has just simply been altered just a little bit, and this is the way it is. I went to interactive program, alternate privilege list, and list of interactive programs that should not start. And what I put in here is FTP. So I don't want FTP to start on the DC. Just to go back here, I'll browse to in the window, or in the Windows Explorer, and I can start FTP. So it is something that works. I can also start it, as you might guess, from the command line. And there it is again. FTP is running. Who am I? I'm the administrator. Something to keep in mind. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to the CSP. I'm going to turn this feature on. I'm going to put a check mark here. It means we're going to turn this on. And I'm going to OK that. And we've got to change. All the changes to policies are logged. You'll be able to check every change and who made it. Last thing I have to do is I have to reapply this policy. I have to apply it to the DC. I'm just going to go ahead and finish that. That's our domain controller. It's reapplying the policy. It hasn't necessarily been pushed out to the DC yet. And if we look here on our assets page, we'll see a red flag by that machine, DC. That means there's a policy waiting to be deployed to that machine. That's controlled by what they call the polling interview, or the polling interval. If you're familiar with SEP, it's called the heartbeat. That's how often does the agent check in with the server to see if there are any changes in the policy or any updates. Now, in this case, I've put it to a ridiculously small number, like 60 seconds. You wouldn't want to do that in your production environment. That would just create a lot of unnecessary network traffic. Let me just refresh the page. The flag is gone, so that means the policy's now been applied. We'll go back to the DC. Once more, I'm going to try it right from the command line, and I'm going to get accesses denied. Before I could start it, now I can't. If I try it here, I get the same thing. Access is denied. So this is a demonstration of how we can control individual applications. I am the administrator, but it just doesn't matter. Our privileges have been automatically de-escalated to that of a normal user, or actually in this case, it may not run at all. So this is it's a trivial example, but it's an example of how we can absolutely lock down a server. I'm not going to go through the steps of backing out again to see to undo this policy so we can see that it will work again, but take my word for it, it does work. We're rapidly running out of time. So we'll just leave it right there because I am past our 30 minutes. I don't want to make this any longer. Let me go back to, we'll finish off the demo right here. So I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to say thank you very much. Again, my name is Will VanderLinden. If